This is Pitchside Prospects.
This is Pitchside Prospects.
This right here.
This is it. And welcome to episode number 10. Yeah, bro.
Monday, November 20th.
Yeah, we were talking about
Thanksgiving week.
Oh yeah, man.
Happy Thanksgiving for those that celebrate it. For those that don't, have some turkey in the honor of those Indians and
Yeah, you
who
know
are
it's
the settlers, the pilgrims.
Yeah, but if you don't celebrate it, it's probably because you have some sort of Native American blood in you, and there's no reason to celebrate when Columbus and the Pilgrims came over and took your land from you.
So
That's why
let's be
Thanksgiving is
be
a
real
foreign
about that.
holiday.
Let's be real about that.
It's an
Like,
interesting one. What are we celebrating when we eat?
do you think
stealing
they
of
would
the
have been?
land of
Do you think that
America.
the land would have been found anyway?
No,
If
I don't wanna talk about
if
that.
Christopher Columbus didn't do it, you think someone else would have done it?
Unfortunately, the way of the world would say yes, but
So then,
it's
the world, my friend.
what we're celebrating on Thanksgiving is an interesting thing.
Offside, instant offside. We're gonna start with a yellow card right there. That was
for all my natives out there. I'm with you. Oh man, it is the holiday season though. So besides Thanksgiving, we have Christmas, Hanukkah, and all those good things. So
and we're experiencing a lot of. Is it celebration? I'm experiencing a lot of stuff to celebrate. Are you experiencing? You're experiencing a lot of hardship, no?
Yeah.
And we're having good coaching formations happen in these high school experiences.
Yeah, I would say that I've experienced quite a lot of hardship in recent times. So I'm celebrating the fact that I've made my way through all of those hardships and I haven't let them take me down. So I'm ready to stand back up and fight again and shoot. That's really all there is in life sometimes is the ability to get back up and keep going. Even when the chips are down, the cards are bad, you play what you got and you do your best with what you have. And so what I would say is that when you have something or nothing to be grateful of, just be grateful of the things that you do have and the things that you have made.
Wow, beautiful full circle of Thanksgiving, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, right?
Thanksgiving. That's right. And then the high school season is well underway. I've had 2 games and 1 win and 1 loss. I'm excited for the team's potential, the prospect of what they could be. Yeah. And honestly,
I laugh because, like, as a coach, aren't we all excited about what we think can happen with our teams before the season when we see, oh, little Johnny do that super cool skill move on Billy, and now he's like, ooh, that guy can do something dangerous there. But then when games come and when adversity comes, that's when you really get to see the side of people that some people try to hide the best in practice.
The difference between a good and a great coach is the unlocking of the player's potential throughout the season. And I feel very confident in my ability to unlock potentials, both individually and collectively for this group. And hopefully get them to a place where they can autonomously reach that potential consistently. And if I could do that within a 4-month long season, that speaks leaps and bounds about my ability to transfer knowledge through my communication and let them take it for what it's worth. But again, 4 months is incredibly short season. And
yeah, I mean it's a third of the year, and in retrospect,
it's half of a
in
normal
all
season.
of the whole seasons, yes, it is.
It's half of a normal season, half the length. So you have to think about all of those lessons and teachings, unlockings of potential to be somewhat accelerated process. And what I'm actually working on is getting the team to be able to train postseason in the spring and maybe even hold summer camps. So this will be the last time we only spend 4 months together in a year. Maybe going forward, one of the changes I make to the program as a whole is we're going to go from spending 4 months in season together and that's it to spending 8 months of the year together where 4 months of it's the season. But we're going to do all of that time that we spend together in the spring, in the summer. We'll come back in the fall. A lot of my students and players, it's a private school, so they have to play multiple sports.
They have to?
They have to. And
What?
there are no PE classes at my school. In order to get PE credit, you have to participate in athletics within the school that compete against other schools.
So then, how many? Just to like side tangent, how many credits do they have? How many sports do they have to do every year?
One.
Only one.
Only one.
So they can do soccer and then they're fine.
Yeah, but it's a winter sport. And a lot of the time, because the school is built that way, the other sports teams are looking for people. They need help, they need support, they need bodies.
So that's an incentive, since you have such a small like player pool to choose from, for the school to incentivize players participating in random sports.
I wouldn't call it an incentive. It's more of like a condition,
A requirement,
a
yeah.
requirement.
Yeah.
And you could look at it like this: like some of my footballers are going to play football because their team doesn't have enough.
No, you gotta say like football.
American football.
That's the only way that I refer to American football now. I go football.
I believe the only player transfer that should be going on between American football and football is the kicker.
Bam.
Right? If the kicker is going from team to team, then I'm like, that makes sense. But that's not how it is in my school. I got people going into QB and running back, and like they just do it because like the team is in need, you know. And I think that maybe the fall will be the challenging point in getting my team and program to maintain its training together, because it's likely that fall sports takes a few of my players and has them engaged just to compete numbers wise. And then you have to think fall is the main season time of the year for club soccer. So all my best players are focused there anyway in the fall. So if we're training spring, summer, they go to their clubs in the fall and they come see me in the winter. The amount of time that I'm spending with these boys as a whole has doubled. And even though there might be a little bit of a breaking point in the fall prior to the winter when we need to hit the ground running,
the concepts are still there.
And the 4 months we worked in the spring and summer will come and show themselves again.
It'll be like already drilled in almost.
More fluid.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be starting from scratch or feeling like this is an accelerated process. Because that's where I'm at. I'm in an accelerated state. And that means that some things sometimes could be overlooked because you're prioritizing what matters most for the team and their potential. And right now, what I prioritize is mentality, particularly mentality with my team. I think there's a level of commitment that could go up, and that's something that takes time instilling in people and letting them know where you stand on a level of commitment for the team and the group. And if you don't meet this level of commitment, that it may be my decision to put somebody else in place. Because I'm more of a principal coach, and you know that. Like, I would rather have the weaker player who's showing up 5 days a week than the stronger player who's showing up 2. And unfortunately for the team would succeed probably better if I played the player who showed up twice but was a better player.
Yeah.
But what value does that teach to the rest of the group as you're raising young men, as if he can just miss and show up when he wants and still compete and play? It's an awkward position for the team, for me, because I want to do what's best for the team, always. But it doesn't take precedent for me over the morals and values that the boy needs to learn as a human being.
Well, let's think about it. In life, in the things that you've experienced, would you say that the person that has the more talent gets the opportunity more times than the person that could be the better prepared person there for the position?
Yes, I do. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Year 2, coaching my high school team, I used to run them up the mountain that could see over our whole city, our school, our whole city. We get to the top of the mountain, and I would give a speech once a year at the top of this mountain. I have like full recordings of the speeches I would do because I was just who I was.
Hey, those are going to come out soon.
I'm a public speaker.
They're a Patreon.
All the way.
Only Zachy Jen's OnlyFans, and you can see those.
But yeah, I must have given hundreds of public speeches to both my teams and at the banquets while I was running my first high school. But what I'm remembering from that speech, I always gave it the same way. Not the same exact, but the same meaning. Was talent will take you places and will not be able to keep you. Skill which is developed will take you to places and allow you to stay. So we'll go back to that talented player getting picked every time. if that's the case, I don't know where the longevity sits for that player who's full of talent but no skill. Because the longevity states that they're talented enough to be here, but maybe they're not disciplined enough to stay here. Where skill is developed, and through the developing of skill, you acquire discipline. And what that gives you is maybe you arrive to this place, middle, bottom of the barrel, but you have the discipline and the skill to stay and work and continue to wade your way up to the top. It's a longevity thing, of course, but I will always side on the fact that skill will keep you places that talent can only take you. And I get it. You're a talented player and you come up, you show out, you go, and you got all this ego about yourself because you are talented. I felt this way as a player myself. But if that is the case, why don't you go and develop your skill as well and start to get more disciplined and become that disciplined, skillful player with the talent that you do have? Talent isn't enough at the next level. And when you get into college, almost everybody is talented. Almost everybody is hardworking. Then the next level, again, professional, it starts to zone in and talent starts to fall and discipline starts to rise. And now when you're trying to break through the college barrier into the pros, it's all about consistency, which is discipline, which is skill that is developed. It's a matter of continuously being talented, which comes from continuously doing the work.
No, and the more you go up the pyramid, the smaller and smaller and smaller the margins get, because guess what? If you're up there, you don't think the guy next to you has talent?
Oh, every single one of them.
Puh.
Even the person sitting on the bench chomping at your bits
Yeah,
has talent.
of course.
But what kind of discipline are they showing? Are they listening to the coach's instruction and where and when he wants them to play? Are they doing the simple things well and the hard things maybe not as much?
I'm going to let that idea simmer because it's a great one that I want to build up on. And it's funny, this may be the football episode because I got a football coach reference that talked exactly about what you're talking about. And that guy's one of the greats, but we'll transition into that later so that we can let that thought be in your mind.
Great coaches are great coaches. Bam. They're leaders that lead their young men or women to becoming better people and better athletes. And I mean, that guy's clearly one of those people where if you read a book on him, you would get something from it. You know what I mean? And our top coaches, no matter what the sport, they're true developers of character and ability.
No, I gotta say that my team this past week we got to have a preseason, which I had never had in one of my teams before. Especially knowing, I mean, you already know.
I know.
that was barely. It was a VAR check. It was a VAR check right there, you know. But being able to have a preseason with a team and not have games that you're looking on the horizon for, that means like games like in a week or less time.
Games up the shoot that you're preparing for, right?
It makes it easy for me to make an environment that is high commitment, but also very relaxed in the sense of if you do bad on a certain day, if you make a mistake on a certain day, there's no problem because we're just here to get to know each other as teammates, get to enjoy the time that we have to have together, and then just enjoy playing football together. And me going into that week, setting up the training sessions like that, it was so fun for me to not be able to need to be there as a coach and have to be able to delegate these emotions that I want the players to start thinking to my assistant coach, for him to put these in action in the practice, and then me being able to see them from another field and say, those guys look like they're having fun. And that was the main thing that for me was I was so happy to be able to get to that objective, especially because it was the first time ever doing it. And for the boys to be so, first of all, objective-minded, and then when the objective gets met, be happy, be excited, be excited for themselves and for their teammates that, guys, we did it. And we did that, as a team together, and I could have done that without you, and now we're going to be rubbing it in the other person's face.
So, like, how long have you, or do you have, before your first game?
So
how long
our
have you
first
team?
game right now is 8 days away.
And you've trained for how many so far?
We've had 3 days of training, and we had one meeting day, which was the
most impactful.
The most impactful, especially for the preseason. First day that we had to set the standards and like let the players know that first of all, you guys are the destiny of your own season is in your own hands, and making sure that we discussed about this, not putting ideas into what they want out of the season. They need to be able to get that out of themselves to be able to really have that belief that, okay, this is our goal.
You talk about being objective minded, let them set the objective. And don't give them any ideas of what that should or shouldn't be. That conversation you have right at the beginning, you set your goals, could be the most impactful thing you ever do with a new team in preparation. Because what is it to be internally motivated? It's to set a goal that you want for yourself and for the team, and then you every day waking up to attack that thing. You don't have somebody like the coach coming behind you going, come on, we got to do this. Come on, it's coming from in here. And so when that happens, their inert ability to be motivated day in and day out is more consistent. It's even a higher level of motivation. Internal is much stronger than external motivation.
And that's a great thing that you bring up, because imagine you as a coach, you like to do passing patterns, where one person stands at a cone, and like let's say 5 people are standing at a cone, and then the ball gets moved to cone A, that then goes to cone B, C, whatever.
I've moved away in the last few years from passing patterns and evolved them into gauntlets. But yes, I do that all the time.
Sequences
that have not just the pass and control actions built in, but also finishing or crossing built in.
So one coach that I recently got to have a great conversation with, shout out future episodes.
Ooh.
But he was saying that one of the main tenets in his ideology of soccer is competitiveness, and not only in the game in the 90 minutes plus stoppage time that you have, but it's in every single action that you do. Because if you're going to be competitive only in the game, are you really competitive?
No.
And you're building the emotion of doing everything to the best of your ability through competitiveness since day one.
I just don't know. I guess I have a hard time relating with people who aren't naturally competitive. I grew up with 2 brothers. Just that right there is enough to know that I was born competitive, because if you're raised with 2 brothers or even one, that's just the nature of your relationship as you're growing up. We all picked our favorite club teams by the age of 2. So by like 4 years old, I remember hounding my older brother because it's Liverpool versus Arsenal, and we're screaming at the TV, and when the game's over, we're turning FIFA on, we're playing with those teams and competing. Then when we're done with that, we're going out back, we're kicking the ball, and I'm Henri and he's Gerard, and we're playing 1v1 in the side
Stop
yard.
saying it like that, dude. That's like saying Henry, dude. I'm like Thierry Henry, dude.
Henri is the way that his name is said.
Yeah, but you're saying Gerard like you're saying Thierry Henry, man.
Gerard.
He's not Spanish, bro. He's a Brit bloke, man.
Highly competitive people, and like you get into the training, and I just don't think that it's about only when you play that you need to be competitive. There's a thing that we all should share when in sport, and it's that competitive spirit. You should naturally want to win. For me, it's supposed to be or should be something that's inert. It's inside of you, and that you bring to the football table. And that if I have to develop your competitive spirit, sometimes it worries me about if competitive sports are for you. Because that's the kind of like at the core of everything is how do you be competitive but still balance it with the respect of your teammates or your opponents or whomever you're playing against at that moment. Because there's an objective mindedness whenever you start a game. It's to win the game. But the objective changes depending if it's practice or game. And each little scrimmage, small-sided rondo, in match against opponents is a chance for you to show
Excuse me.
who you are as a competitor. And I feel more and more so that spirit is slowly diminishing within the players. And now it's hard, right? Because I come to the field and I coach in a very principled way. So one of the things I'm not always hounding is we have to win, we have to win. In fact, I'm the process coach. I say you have to play well and that will lead to you winning. You have to communicate well, that will lead to you winning. You have to be in the right positions, that'll lead
See,
to
but
you
like
winning.
you gotta like this week. What I'm gonna try and do in my team is we're gonna have games, but we're gonna have the last game of the day be the the championship, right?
And you have all the players that lost around it, or what? That's one of my favorite
they're gonna have
parts
their
of
own.
competitive spirit.
Well, that's a good.
The
I
final
like
match,
that.
you make everybody watch the final match instead
The
of playing
the losers are gonna watch instead of
playing
play.
the ramification round, or what do they call that?
The losers
The
game.
losers bracket,
The
right?
losers
Instead,
game.
your loser bracket could be, well, come watch the top teams.
So you know what the incentive is for the top team, and I did it last week. We had a run with the team, and I had one of the top performers, not the top performer, one of, because the top performer didn't want it. We had a photo. The assistant coach, and the player, and we had the photo, and we posted on my Instagram, and now it's like, oh, who wants to be in the photo? Not that my photo is important, but who wants to be in a photo with the winning team at the end of the practice?
Oh yeah, that's
That's what we want to do, and then we're gonna have the all right winning team say cheese, boom boom, and then everyone else gets to clean up, and the winning team just gets to be stylish supermodel winners.
Yeah,
and that's going to be something I'm going to be doing this week.
Photos and get out of there feeling like champs when everybody else is like picking up the work.
The losers.
Yeah. We talked about different ways of handling the repercussions of losses, right, in the past podcast, and so there's a good way. Like, arguably, in developmental sense, all of the players that lost in that round leading up to the championship round should probably play, because the more they play, the more they develop. But what are we developing if we have them surround the championship field and watch that game?
Competitiveness,
the competitive spirit. And so there is a sense of development. It's just a different route. You've taken a different route. Less about actions and more about values, morals, objectivity,
and that's
what it means to be a part of.
It's funny. I feel like me understanding myself more as a coach, I'm more of a coach that thinks about this instead of thinking about the technical
actions.
I'm thinking about the emotion, the psychology that's going through, and what is going to happen based off of whatever I just did.
I think at the core of us in our coaching, that might be one of the major differences.
100%.
I'm totally focused on actions and technical detail and all of those positions and what leads to what. And you're not solely, but you're highly focused on mentalities and what is said to invigorate the players.
And it's not even high. I guess yes, highly focused, but my mind just goes straight to it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
this may be between us, but like, remember how I said that guy was gonna talk to that guy?
Yeah.
And how that reaction was gonna get that reaction. This guy doesn't even think about it, but it's because he doesn't know. He doesn't know the chess game that he's gonna be playing, and so I feel like for me, I enjoy seeing the different emotions be in place. And that for me is where I get my, I don't know a better way to say it, but like my fix.
It's your spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we talked about it before, maybe I haven't brought it up, but Matt Hall, who was like the head coach of San Diego Loyal Select, he was the goalkeeper coach for the first team of San Diego Loyal, and he runs the Costa Mesa College for soccer. He also is the owner of Vista, the youth club up in, I think it's the
Vista.
That's the city.
Vista Storm, yeah.
But like, we were sitting on the bench during game 2 or 3 of the San Diego Select, and I'm realizing after game 3, I've heard him coach 2 now, and realizing I turned to him like, "Yo, your brain's always on defensive stuff, isn't it?" Because he looks back at me, he's like, "I was a goalkeeper. Naturally, everything I think about on this game in this space is it starts from a defensive point, and then we transition to everything else." And I'm sitting there like, "Bro, that's so odd. I never think about that stuff. I just want to have the ball. I just want to have the ball, and I detail everything that happens when we have the ball. And I'm so focused on offensive stuff when we have it." And he looks over and he goes, and that's why I got you here, bro.
See, and that's why, like, if
oh,
if our sport were to be more like football, you'd be like an offensive coordinator, you know?
Yeah, I would be.
You're the offensive coordinator looking at the top and yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I would be designing routes and positions and how.
Little side tangent. Do you think football could ever, our football, our football can ever get to the American football type of coaching where it's so specific? Like we're kind of already seeing it where you have warm up coaches that are specifically warming up not only the players' bodies activation muscle wise, but activating their brain and making sure that they're getting ready to go into a game that's going at 1,000 miles an hour. You have goalkeeper coaches, you have set piece coaches, you have Liverpool that has that throw in coach. Like, do you think the game will just keep on getting broken down into different phases and you're going to start to need to have different coaches for each phase?
Yes, I do. And the reason I feel that way is because it's already kind of happening. You watching the EPL games right now, and there's twice the amount of people sitting in those chairs on staff there were 10 years ago. And then you look at all the iPads and all the technology that's going on, and the second a play happens, what do you see a manager doing?
They're looking.
And he's got a microphone so he can talk to people who saw it from above, and it is extending that way. I mean, think about San Diego Loyal, who's, and I'm going to say only a USL team because the league level compared to the other professional leagues in America.
And they're gone.
And they still had analysts standing in the top of the stands that were vocalizing things down to the ground. They had everybody on the ground, like 7 to 8 staff members, doing each particular job in detail. I do believe it's going to keep heading that way. My only concern that if it does is the manager starts to lose a little bit of sway with his own team. Like,
no, because he's the one that controls.
Correct.
That's that.
But you think about when you delegate, it's almost harder to delegate so many of those different aspects and then funnel it back into you.
But then think about it. Wouldn't you rather have, for me, I'd rather have the specialist on offense doing that and running that instead of me that maybe has a delegation specialist that I know how to delegate. I can trust you and be like, all right, Zach, I need you to be doing this. And I need you to also work with a defensive coach so that the transition between both is good.
100% do I feel that is beneficial to the sport and the manager. My only concern is that the final decision is made by the manager, and wins and losses, the judgment, it goes on
him, yeah.
And then your job, whether you keep it or not, is based upon the decisions that you had to make. So to go back and to say, like, my only concern is that all that information is being fed into you so you can make a final decision. It's not making the decision, right? And sometimes when you're just given all of this information from specialists in the heat of the moment, the game's on, and you're seeing something or feeling something completely different, you have to make a choice. The hardest part about being a manager of a team is making hard decisions probably every 3 to 5 minutes. And the more information you gather, which is what these people are helping you do, it creates a more intense decision. The decision becomes more impactful. Whether you make it left or right, that decision holds more weight because now you have more information to make it. And if you make the wrong one, let's say you didn't believe in the information you got from the offensive coordinator, and you felt that this was the change you needed to make, and it turned out to be a win, it was the right choice. The offensive coordinator is going to take that, hopefully not in the wrong way, but my guess is with a bit of resentment. Like, why am I here doing this job, adding all this detail and information if you're not even going to listen to it?
Because even though in that specific moment you didn't make your decision wasn't taken valid, the 72 hours, all of the time before that game was from your information. That's how I would take that. That if I was the manager and you were the offense, I'd be like, dude, the offense ran that way, that good today because of you and what you did.
Yeah, but what if I was sitting there as the offensive coordinator, right? And I'm like,
this is great.
And I go, I showed you where all the spaces were, and you went something completely opposite.
And we won.
Do you distrust my information?
And I'm gonna be like, you know what? In the moment when in the game when they were because I know you, and let's just do it on a basis of where I know you.
Yeah, that's it. I was the
I
coordinator, you were
saw
managing.
I always saw something else from the defense that I didn't think you saw, and so that's the reason why.
Maybe you created that goal out of counterplay instead of an offensive action that changed the game. So again, I believe it's a good thing that they expand their coaches in the amount of information that could be absorbed and shared during the match, because God knows there's so much that happens. The information is almost endless, and what you choose to do with it leads you to a decision, and each decision is very impactful. So, like, one other reason that I like that idea is because I eventually want to find myself on the sideline of pro matches. And if they extend what the staff is needed to do it, more jobs open up in that line, and I'm able to hopefully find my way into one of those positions.
Use your niche, which is positional possession, which is an offensive thing, to be an offensive coordinator.
To find myself on that field for game day.
I like that you brought up the fact that we have to make difficult decisions every 3 to 5 minutes because, and this is so funny, I love to journal, and I love to journal about reflecting about what happened, and I have a vivid journal memory that we had on our first weekend with the team, or one of the very first weekends we had with the team. It was after the first games that we had in Las Vegas in that weekend. And I vividly remember in my journal after the first day when we were up in the MGM hotel room and I was writing and you were probably in the shower dancing and singing away before we go out. I wrote, the moments in which a player makes you make a tough decision are the moments where a game will change. And it will change for the good or the bad depending on the decision that you made. So those moments, the hard decisions that we as coaches have to make, hard to say it this way, but are the make or break for what happens in the game.
And there's no going back on your decision.
Oh, hell no. But you know what?
Up, you have to live with it.
But you know what? I absolutely love, those are the decisions that I live for, that I'm starting to understand, okay, this is the crucial decision. What are we going to do?
I remember that moment. You were so keen on that idea. You said it out loud. Like, dang, that was brilliant. And I'm like, what? And
we were what the hell's happening, dude? What's going on?
Right? I was like, what's so brilliant? And I was like, oh yeah, that did come. Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And we did have, if you remember, that's the reason why.
That's exactly the reason why.
Intense moment on that field. I think in the first game.
Yep.
And I had reacted or acted in a strong way. I made a strong decision on that moment. And I believe, still sitting here today, made the right decision for the team. And the outcome of the tournament was positive from that point on. Like, we successfully moved forward in a positive way.
In parentheses.
Relative to the competition, you could say.
In parentheses.
Right? But I believe whenever you do have to make one of those hard decisions, my most favorite part, the most impactful part to me, is watching how the outcomes of your decisions take place within the game, for better or worse.
No, and they show instantly.
And you learn from it, for better or worse. And each time, each game, there's endless amounts of those moments. So, like, you writing in the journal is one of the best things you could do. The reflecting period is one of the things I told you already. I'm so proud of you for doing, is that you're reflecting on each of your works as they transpire. That's the only way for a coach to truly get better, is to look back on the things that they've said and done and to judge them from their own hindsight. To say, I could have been better there. I could have said it this way. I could have done this instead. You can't change the past, but you can learn from it and be better for the future.
And I think you have to, as a coach, as a person, as a player, everyone, this is a harsh reality, but all of the decisions, all of the things that you have done in the past have put you exactly where you are right now.
You got to live with it.
And you must believe that, because if you don't believe that, then you're in a delusional state where You may be playing the victim, and you may be saying, "Oh well, this person, my friend." The only way for you to get out of your own situation is by your own actions, and the way that you get out of your own situation is by changing the actions that you have been doing before.
I think I fell in love with coaching because the game has a way of emulating life lessons within it.
And real quick, in 90 minutes.
And that is a life lesson that could be taken and ran with for your whole life, right? Because the decisions that you make is the outcome of whom you are, and you must live with it going forward. And if it was a poor decision, how do you recollect and change it into something that's better for the future and not repeat that mistake? Or if it was a great decision, how did you come to that, and what outcomes, what made it so great, and can you replicate that? And over the course of the journey of your life, you get better or worse based upon how often you reflect on the things that you did and if you choose to grow or not. As coaches, we don't have a choice. If you want to coach, you must reflect. You have to look back.
It's as simple as this. The reflection is as simple as this. If you're not, like, for example,
I wish I
the
could
new
find them.
the new Fortnite map came out, and everyone has been playing, and everyone's been on that.
Yeah.
Instead of being on that game for an hour or two, just write your thoughts. Write what you got in your mind. Write what you think you're doing good at. Write what you think you're doing bad at.
They are right here. All of these things are just notes and notes and notes from the years that I've been coaching football. And it's just like these endless things of just comments that I needed myself to understand. This is a whole notebook that I tore out. There's literally 50 pages of notes.
Do you know Vitor Frade?
No.
He is the father of tactical periodization, and he has these type style notes, and he also has newspaper articles that, like, let's say he had this very nice newspaper here. He would take this newspaper, he would annotate it, highlight it, do all this stuff. Vitor Frade made, or the university that Vitor Frade teaches at made a Vitor Frade compilation of all his notes. You could actually go to the library of this university and buy the Vitor Frade notes.
Oh.
Unfortunately, it's in Portuguese. But, I mean,
nowadays technology, you could transfer that information to English pretty easily.
But learning from a football pioneer, football mastermind, and actually seeing what goes on in his brain, that's...
See, you would like this one. Here's the 6 rules of Jose Mourinho as a coach.
We're based from
documentary on Netflix.
Okay, I was gonna say based off of Zach
It's
Jens.
a documentary called Coaching Notebook, and Jose was one of the episodes, and those were his 6 rules from that documentary. This one is my perspective of a time at Barca. I have endless of these, like just from different times in my life. This one just says coaching perspective at the top, and the first quote is from Mark Van Daren, and it says,
"Who's he?"
I don't know.
That's concerning, Zach.
I knew at one point because I wrote it, but it says the art of teaching is the art of assisting discovery. The next comment says, be positive, but use praise wisely. Time management is crucial to a successful season. Having a transparent intention towards the focus of the session. The focus can be contextual.
You don't gotta give us all your sauce, bro. This is for the OnlyFans, you know.
Yeah, okay.
You gotta keep some of this on wraps, you know.
I've been doing this so long that this stuff is archived already. You know what I mean? Like, I have, in my 10 years of coaching, probably filled 4 or 5 different notebooks, just like this, of comments and thoughts that I transpired to come across when I was coaching. And all of those things lead you to the point of where you're at now, the person you are now, better or worse, right? The more you reflect, the more you write, the more you leave these messages with yourself, the more you come back to them and you read them again, and they become, again, part of your soul. Where here's rule number 4 from Jose Mourinho. You would love this. Some rules are meant to be broken. It says right there that if you can get away with it, why not? That sounds a lot like Jose Mourinho.
No, it sounds like something we talked about this year as
And
well.
something I struggle with because I'm a principal coach. So I'm like, I think karma's going to come back to bite me if I do that. But here's one of the best coaches of all time stating, "This is how I got away with it. This is what I did principally to get away with it."
How about we go and switch gears and talk about how a player can bounce back from having a time of negative actions and negative,
Circumstances.
yeah, if you can put it that way.
Well, actions derives like negative things that they have done or have happened to them, and circumstances is the uncontrollables. And like I recently realized in my not realized but experienced in my own life, like you could have negative circumstances stack on you, but it doesn't mean that your actions have to turn into something that's going to be detrimental. In fact, if you have the right mentality, you can use negative circumstances to internally motivate
And
yourself
push you.
to be better. And when things aren't going your way, there's a bottom line there. You have to be true to yourself. You have to know your worth, but you have to go and work. It's all three of those things. I say know your worth because sometimes no matter how hard you try with where you are, it isn't the right place. So knowing your worth will bring you to this place in your brain where you're like, I know what I'm worth, I know what I'm capable of, and I need to find somebody who believes in me. If you're having circumstantial issues, usually that is a good route. Because if you can change the circumstances and find somebody who believes in you, your self-belief goes up, and therefore your internal motivation and your actions improve. That's just one route. I was with a guy when I was growing up playing. His name was Greg Tilson. This dude was notorious for being an asshole. But
It's my type of guy right there. Shout out Greg.
he was hardcore. The guy, one day, and I love this guy. I love you, Greg Tilson. Seriously. But one day at training, making us run, and the guy in front of me was a baller. He was puking. It was so hard of a session. I had to pull off from the run to get my inhaler. I get on my inhaler, but I didn't ask Coach. Coach comes up to me, grabs that, goes, "It's a crutch," throws it on the ground, smashes it. It's an older time, remember? This is an older time. These things were normal. I think about that guy. He was so hardcore. He was so rough as a coach. But the lesson that he taught me in that moment was to be stronger, to keep going, to run through these problems and circumstances that were fighting against you, to be better on the other side. I stayed with Greg for as long as I can remember, like until the club actually dissipated. The club's name was Protege Academy, and I loved the place, but it went under, and I had to transfer clubs because it went under. One of the things that that coach had taught me was that even when the negative circumstances are all-time high, if you choose to like buy into what this coach is teaching you, you could really gain something that you didn't have before. And what I didn't have before Greg was grit. I had no grit. There was no stone skin on me. Soft as could be. No longer was I this guy or young man who couldn't take a coach yelling at me.
It sounds like Greg was the type of guy that wouldn't let his
No
time
excuses.
be devalued.
That's a great point. And we talked about that like we wanted to talk about that. Because
Well, you know me, I gotta be the host. I gotta
Yeah.
be, giving you the alley oop for the LeBron James.
he taught me how to be tough, period. I didn't have that before. But I had to stay with him for a long time in order to get that from him.
Well, it's not that something like mental toughness is not something that you're gonna be picked up on the first day. No,
No.
that's something that's got to be really like screwed and driven in and made feel like you had to go through something to be able to have that mental tough. Because if you don't go through anything, how are you going to be tough?
And I'll go back to the time as a commodity thing in a moment, but I think that one of the things that taught me was your circumstances don't always have to be good in order to succeed at where you're at. When things are going rough, they're wrong, maybe is exactly where you need to be. You just hate it because of that. But unfortunately, a lot of time in life, the things that we hate is exactly what we need. And on the other side of that hate is a massive lesson for us to pick up and take with us. And I think that you go back to time is a valuable commodity. When I was coaching in my high school, the first one, not the one I'm doing now, the Canyon High School, my most used statement was time is my most valuable currency. Please don't waste it, because I'm a 21, 22-year-old man who's coaching at a high school, who's spending 10 hours of my week in, week out, 9 months of the year, because that was in LA, with you high schoolers. When I work engineering all morning. I got money to blow. I'm 21 and I'm living in my hometown LA at the time. Like, my time could have been spent incredibly differently at that time in my life. And I consistently put that in front of them. This is my most valuable currency I have, more valuable than money. Don't waste it. If I'm here to make you better, you should be here to better yourself and to help the team be better. And if you can't bring that to the table, you should go.
Babalu,
Because I'm here. I'm not going. I came to do this, and I came to do this right. And if you don't come and bring that same energy, I feel like you've taken my time, which I literally only get one shot at life, and you're just spitting on it. And if that's the case, and the other 19 guys in the session aren't, you're the toxic one. And I need you to start to understand how valuable time really is, because teenagers in general don't. They have all the time in front of them, and they're still kind of getting used to what life really is. So it's like this feeling of the rest of the world's in front of me. Well, I'll tell you, at 22, when I had came back to coach my high school, it didn't feel that way. I had already gone to live those fun years of my life. I had come back, and now I'm working full time. But this is what I've chosen to do with my time as a person on this planet. So how could you then turn around and spit on it that way when I'm here to help you improve? Like, it's not going to be, I'm not here selfishly for my own gain. If I was doing that, I'd be like in the MLS Next Leagues 24/7 trying to push my advance as a coach. But I'm here with you guys because, one, I'm prideful about this school. I love this school. I went to this school. We won a lot when I played here. And I want that to continue. If you don't feel the same, I don't think you're in the right place. Go play football. Go play that. Because I don't want you in this environment being toxic towards the time.
You know, it's even crazier. Or go play Sunday League.
That's
and
fine.
go play against people. Go play against people that are older, that already had their time, and that can't compete in the same places that you can compete. You know, just between you and I. Remember that kid that we played against on a Friday?
Yes.
He's not playing high school, and it's
so good. So talented.
Just so you understand,
I spent 30 minutes trying to convince him he's good enough to play college now. So he just needs a team.
And you want to know, so like Dom, our guest, what episode was that?
4.
Episode 4. Check out our guest, Dominic.
Shout out.
Great guy, great coach. He was talking to this kid, and this kid ended up telling him, like, oh yeah, I'm not going to play high school. And Dom, like, put a jab at him and be like, oh, so you'd rather play against washed up 20, 30-year-olds instead of actually competing? And I asked Dom, hey Dom, when was the last time that you as an adult felt the competition that is high school soccer, or like any feeling that he's like, bro, there's no feelings in adult life like that, because like
it's hard to obtain a feeling of that.
Extremely hard. And so for me to hear that kid isn't going to do that, it's like, man, what a waste of talent, dude. What a waste of opportunity. 100%. And I like to go back to that point where you were talking about, yeah, you could have this talent, but no one's going to give you anything.
No, it's like when you're thinking about time again, right? And how to use it wisely. It's a commitment factor. You must not only show up and be present all the time, but you have to be giving it your absolute best. And you can't disrespect the time that is spent from you there as the player and the coaches that take time out of their lives to be there. And here's the thing about competitive spirit that I think people tend to overlook from me personally, because of the coach that I am as a developer and teacher. But put boots on me and put me into the game, and how am I? Am I a coach?
No, mames,
or am I a player?
you're a player that wants to beat everybody
I just want to win,
humiliate.
and I want to make people look poor, and I want to be the best guy on the field. Like, but
beautiful,
but
beautiful, because that's why you're there.
It's also
And
the reason they say don't play with your teams while you're coaching, because you lose sight of certain aspects of the big picture when you funnel your vision by becoming a player. But the thing that I'm trying to teach my players when I do that is what it truly means to be a football, to compete. Like, at the end of the day, we all step out there and we're competing for fun. We want to have fun.
But we're also all competing for the same spots.
Here's the major difference that I've found within the youth that I coach and maybe the youth that I grew up with. The competition aspect was the fun part. We had fun the more competitive the game got. The harder it was to win the game, the more fun it was for us. For me, at that time, that's what it felt like. It felt like the competitive spirit and the fun were built into one another. Now, I find that they have more fun with less competitive spirit going on.
With their friends.
Yeah.
With their friends.
They'd rather just get on with each other than get on at each other to improve each other. And let's say we get on with each other and we go and we train.
Okay, hey, we're friends. We're having fun. Hey, let's go to the movies. How about we go hit some golf balls?
You develop, you learn. But compared to the people who are going there to compete with each other, there's a massive gap in what's learned and developed. There's also an intensity and mentality, the thing that you love so much, that is improved within that experience. And I think that players really need to take a long, hard look at themselves about what is fun for me in this sport. Because every time I lace my boots up, it's about being the better team. And that's where I have my fun. I have my fun when we're 3-0 up, and I'm like, now I got the ball, I got time.
Hey, what happened, man? What happened? What happened?
I answer you and maybe give you an elbow, and then you make a poor mistake, I get on you again. Now I'm in your head.
Now that you're talking about building the gap, I want to bring up the importance of nothing. And this was the idea that I have been letting you guys simmer on. And let's say you do have talent.
What was the coach's name? Where this idea came from?
Shout out Nick Saban, one of the GOATs in college football. I love Alabama. I love watching Alabama since I was young because they're winners. And they're serial winners.
They are serial winners.
And even like me thinking about it now, being a coach and like thinking that guy has been at that program for countless years, and how many times that guy has had to bring in new thoughts. He's even thinking about now the importance of nothing. And this is what Coach Saban has to say about the importance of nothing. When you wake up, waking up, what are you entitled to? Nothing. Does anybody owe you? Nothing. When you go onto the field and have all that talent, but you're not competing or you're not focusing on the details, what do you get? Nothing. See, what Coach Saban is trying to say is that nothing is for everybody. Everybody, when they wake up, they have nothing. And it's what you do with your time, what you do with every single second, every single hour, every time that you step on that field. Are you there with intention? Are you there to be there? Because if you're there to be there, then what are you getting?
I don't know if you should be there.
Nothing. And that is the importance of nothing, my friends. And that is something that I've been trying to figure out. What is a simple way to vocabularize, to make that a word, and instead of talking about nothing for a minute, the same director that I met up with that talked about competitiveness, it's that intent, the intent that you are there competing for everything, not just for, let's see who can score the most goals after 90 minutes. It's, hey, what's up, Zach? How you doing, man? Hey, dude, did you see? I got a better test grade than you, per se. Let's start there.
I used
That's
to come
even
to practice
before.
and be like, "Hey, what's your highest juggle count?" Oh,
Oof,
mine's 520.
oof. So I'm taking the context, not even in soccer,
No, into
bro,
life, yeah. Of
and
course.
and in everything, because if we're trying to push each other to be better,
We both succeed.
wow, that's
We both
dangerous.
succeed.
That's dangerous.
And that's the idea I wish more players got in their head. That it's the more that you bring to the table, the more you help your partner across from
The
you.
more complacent you are, the less you help your teammates.
And then on the topic of the importance of nothing, we all have time that we burn. It's human nature. Whether it's late at night after you've worked hard and you're sitting on the TV watching Netflix, or it's early morning when you slept in and the competitor didn't, we all have time where we choose to do nothing. It's a human nature thing. And how you choose to spend that time differently will define who you become in the future. For better or worse, it will define it. And so the importance of nothing is large, right? Because if you can find yourself sitting in that state of nothing, burning your time, and you could actively change the way that you're thinking about it and what you're doing with that time, you will actively improve your life as a whole. And we talked to what earlier that brought up the Fortnite thing, and I rolled my eyes because, listen, I was a teenager once, and Call of Duty was my thing, right? And I played Modern Warfare 2 nonstop.
Back in the old days, back in the good old days.
No scopes was all about this one-on-one life. Like I played it, and I played it religiously, and I still prioritized football and athletics and energy before I played my video games at that time in my life. So I would wake up early. I'd walk to school, go to school. I would train with my school. I would bike to my club practice, bike home after club practice, do the homework, eat my dinner, and then play video games late at night. If I had went to bed
Earlier,
instead of playing video games, would I have made it further than Division II National NCAA football winning state championship? Because the next level is large. But maybe that was the minute difference that kept me from accomplishing that, where the person who was in my same shoes went to bed on time, woke up with proper sleep, and continued to do the grind the same way I was
or woke up
grinding.
earlier than you. Now that he has more time to sleep.
I'm close to turning 30 now. It's scary.
Dangerous.
It's
Wow.
really scaring me.
Oh.
But what's scary is the amount of time that I'm putting back in my pocket these days. Like I'm taking my time back and I'm putting it in my pocket. But that's not always a good thing, because it's a matter of how do you spend the time that you put back in your life that's going to make you into the person you want to become. And I could say honestly, in the last 2 months of my life, I have been spending more time doing nothing than I would like. Even though my form of nothing looks different nowadays at 29, when I'm sitting with my dog and I'm catching up on soccer games, I could be on my laptop expanding our business. And this is the difference between one person and the other, and in the long run of life, the minute differences between you and them that gives them the opportunity that you missed. And like from past experiences, when you're in hindsight, you're looking back upon that, there's a feeling of regret that's like, I wish I worked a little harder. And in that state, in sense of mind, don't be so complacent or dwelling on that fact.
No, you're
Use
just
it.
wasting time if you're going to be dwelling on
Keep
that.
wasting more time.
O
Just
sea,
use
venga.
it to change the way that you spend that time and actively, consciously think about it when you're burning it.
For all the men out there, this is a very, could be dangerous, but it's a very strong tool, and it's use your anger. When you think of something that happened bad to you, and you think of, okay, what can I do to either properly prepare against that or to even prevent it, the next time that you're doing that, think about the time that happened. Think about the bad time that happened and think about how that made you feel. And then think about, oh, I ain't going to let that happen again. No, sir. You have to be using all of the emotions that happen in the day-to-day life, and instead of suppressing them, because guess what? We all have emotions. We all have happy times, sad times, angry times, frustration. What are you going to use? How are you going to use that emotion? Because it's energy.
one of my favorite documentaries is The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary. And in, I think, episode 6 or 7, they talked about how he would make things up to motivate himself internally, to get frustrated.
Well, think about it. After
to
winning,
then compete with.
after
So
winning
just
the third championship,
sparking frustration in himself to then use that frustration against his opponents. And he would fabricate things that he heard or saw in his own mind so that he had this intrinsic motivation day in and day out.
all of the top performers talk about anger. And like the most recent one that I heard was Tom Brady. I don't know who he was doing an interview with, but Tom Brady.
A certain amount of reps.
No, and Tom Brady was getting upset that like, oh, what did the other team say about me? What happened? Oh, what they say about my teammate? Oh, really? Oh, he said that? Let's effing go.
Motivation.
Let's go. Like, I'm not going to let that guy say that about my boy. That's my boy right there. And I'm going to make him look good against that guy so that he can do a little gritty dance on him. Like,
I had a boy down bad in my last high school game, and apparently he didn't share why, but my guess is he was having girl problems. I feel bad for you, son. Don't finish the next line. But my response to him was, you got to find a way to use this emotional energy in this game right in front of you. So you're frustrated, you're upset, you're pissed. How about you use this as a pressure point? Every time they have the ball, you're going to run at him like that was the person that did you bad. And he's like, yeah, coach, I can do that.
I have a funny story about that. I have a funny story about that because one of my, in my high school days, one of my boys was talking with this lady. And this lady was playing games. She was acting up. And I guess she had another guy that was from their high school. And guess what? We were playing against that high school the following week. So you can imagine in the week up going to that game, the I'm already me being in from that community and then having the other community of the school. I'm in between both of them. I'm like, oh, this, oh, that. You know me, I'm probably a little poking a little the bear. When we get there, when we get to that game, oh my gosh, the emotions, the want to, compete. Like you said, like to the want to not even compete, to humiliate the other team. That's what my team went to that game. And just to tell you the score, it ended 5-0.
Yeah, I think I remember back on this topic, like we talked about like using your emotional energy. And I thought I brought up Kobe once before where he played against MJ and MJ said, you can wear the shoes, but you'll never fill them. And Kobe went back to training for the next 3 weeks prior to seeing MJ again. Didn't talk to any of his teammates for 3 weeks. Or if he did, it was pushing them to compete harder so he could emulate what it was like to play against MJ. I don't know if it's misguided or not explained enough to my own players, but that's the kind of motivation that I believe players need to bring to the table, to the team themselves. And it could be misguided because, like you talk about, increasing their competitive spirit and mentality. And
when you increase it too much, then more risk happens. So at least the one thing that I said, look, and in a team, we've got all these rules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But on top of all of them, at the end of the day, there's one that tops them all. It's respect.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you are an SOB. In Spanish, it's a HDP. Shout out Spain. HDP.
Highway. Come on, you're so close.
But the HDP, dude, the HDP energy
I get it.
is something that I like to have in the game because it gives you an advantage. But at the end of the game, we got to be, hey, we as a team, we represent something, and as a school. And even though we play hard, we also have respect hard.
Yeah, I heard one of the managers talking about, I think it was Conte. He doesn't believe in shaking hands.
No, Simeone.
He doesn't believe
in the most HDP out there.
Right? It's like it's fake to him. But for me, it's the signifying the start and the end of the competitive moment.
Yes, I like that.
When before the handshake,
You don't
anything
care. You don't
goes.
care.
We're competing. It's the spirit of competition that's well within both of us to want to win this game. But the second the final whistle is blown and we must shake hands, it's the dropping of those competitive spirits to know, okay, the game's over.
Hey, well done, man.
Said
Well
what
done,
we
mate.
can do.
Good
Now,
game.
next time I see you, we're either gonna be better or we're gonna smash you. Like whatever it is, we're gonna come and we're gonna be better. But thank you for that 90 minutes of competition that increased both of our team's ability as a whole. And like for me, when you think about increasing your team's competitive spirit, I was saying this just a moment ago. Maybe one of my faults, one of my parts as a coach that I need to increase is the understanding that players nowadays, the generations nowadays, need help being as competitive as I was as a kid. Because for me, it was a nerd. It was just built in. And so maybe it's an expectation I uphold the players to have that shouldn't be there, that expectation. Maybe they do need help learning what it means to be competitive. Not everybody. Some people are naturally just
HTP.
yeah. And when the game is on, I can't stress enough how much I actually respect those kinds of people. Because when you put me in the game, that was me. I was very aggressive. I wanted to win. So I see that and I go, heck yeah. But then the player who can't drop it after the final whistle, that's where I'm like, you're missing it.
You got a problem.
You're missing
You
it.
got emotional up here.
Mm-hmm. And now you need to figure out how do you compartmentalize those emotions in order to get the best out of yourself and your development, because you're highly competitive. That's great, but choosing when and where is going to help you develop faster. And if you can't release these emotions either, now there's a life lesson you're missing, because if you can't let go of things, boy, is life going to be hard for you. Like, so many people mistreat you, so many people get opportunities over you, so many things happen in a way you didn't want them to. But if you hold on to all those things, you're never going anywhere. You're just going to be stuck, right? So that's why I think learning to let go, learning to be competitive, and then hear that and then say, okay, let's share our respect, the biggest thing in the game, is one of the greater things and lessons you could teach a player. What is the one thing I used to say with our team last season all the time? You have to balance like you have a scale.
You said a lot of things. I don't know.
That's true. But one of the things I used to say a lot about the competitive spirit and respecting was they're on a teeter-totter, and you have to balance those things. Your competitive spirit goes up, your respect might go down. But the game starts to end, your respect has to come back up, and your competitive spirit has to drop again. In practice, we have to be highly competitive, but those are our teammates. So we have to be highly respectful as well. We're there to improve each other by competing, but we wear the same patch on our shirt day in and day out, and we're on the same team. So we have to see that as a developmental tool for each other. When the practice ends, we have to be even. We can't be here, and we can't be here, because if we gave too much respect and not very competitive, you get a training like I just experienced, and it's no fun, and nobody grew or learned.
Offside. But I do like your point. I think at the end of the practice it has to be like that. But during the practice, I don't believe in a balance. Like
That's because just like the game is on when the practice is on.
exactly. So
And
like
when it ends,
even if it's against your own team, I don't believe that. I believe you should go against them the same way you would go against an opponent. The reason why
100%
my psychology is that if you are going to the person that you would know, the person that you, let's say, go to school with, that you study with, the person that you actually know, if you're going in at 110% at him, imagine how you're going to go into the person that you don't know and that you really don't care about. You have zero remorse, zero regret about what's going to happen. So you know that what you're going to do is objective minded and you don't care about what happens. And it may be harsh to say it, but that's the way that I like my teams to be coming in to the practice, so that in the game it's dale,
So then
dale.
the question becomes, how do you manage the boil over in session?
You let the boys know that they didn't do something good. That like, hey, I like it.
So
Maybe just tone it down.
So you up the respect a bit, right? And so
But that's when the point comes. If that point never comes, then why don't like?
I'll explain to you the hardest experience I ever had at Barca in those 4 years, and it's spot on what we're talking about here. When that boil over came with the 19 MLS who had 6 potential pros, 12 D1 college athletes, all well on their way to moving to schools in 2 or 3 months, and you're operating those trainings, it boils over. And it almost boils over every single day. One of the hardest lessons I ever had at Barca, though, at that caliber of training, was you let it boil over.
A huevo.
You let them fight. You let them swing. You let them fight. Whatever it is, until it gets unacceptable, which happens. Fists are thrown, faces are hit, slurred languages are said, attacking the person who they are. There's lines that are crossed, but one of the things I had to learn in those 4 years was to just zip it and let them go at it, because at that caliber of competition and player ability, in order for them to take the next step, we have to
for them to be the best version of themselves.
We have to allow this behavior, and I was getting that from the directors, but there are ways of managing the boil over in that sense that are much lighter but allow it to transpire. But the overall message was, Zach, just let it play out. Just let it play out, because this is going to happen there against professional players that they're competing with, and how are they going to manage those emotions in that moment? And if you feel that it was completely done wrong in this moment, let it happen, wait for them to cool off, talk to them about how to handle it after.
Exactly. It's in the that's in the hindsight, because what are you gonna when you break that up, the emotions are just massively going still.
The session takes a huge hit too.
Oh yeah, of course, because they're gone.
You stop the flow. And the competition, and you give them a moment to be like, well, it's too much. We got to take it back. No, at that level, caliber of training, it's always got to keep accelerating. And I had a really hard time with that, because I hate to see my teammates borderline swinging at each other. You know, they're there.
But a good team would also like make sure that if it happens, that they're separating each other and they're making sure that, like, hey, we're not getting hurt.
And those 2 guys or 3 guys, whoever were a part of it, they're playing pro now, all of them. And realistically, those lessons they learned in those moments are what they're using now when the TV is on, the stadium is full, the opponents are top notch, highly competitive, and don't really care about you whatsoever. Like, you are their meal, you are their enemy, and they get paid.
You're their money. You're their money.
So forget about you. F you. I got to do what I got brought to this club to do, and that means walk on you. And that's what they were kind of developing at that time at Barca at a young age, right? And we had to learn how to control our own emotions when the boil over came as the coach. And to not, like we say, like you said in your team meeting, to not give them ideas, but to let it happen. And then after it happens,
feedback.
Give the feedback. When the emotions and the emotions dwindle, the logic sets back in, and the player can actually hear your words for its worth. What is it going to give them for their future? And, like, sometimes, dude, we never even addressed it. Like, if these 2 players that I'm thinking of in my mind came at it, because they came at blows a lot, we just went into the next practice. It became a norm. And they arguably competing at the highest of level. So watching it as a coach was like, oh, but also.
No, like, imagine. Let's end this with the gap. Do you think that those 2 pushing each other pushed their gaps to be a little bit more than everyone else in the practice?
I think actually it pushed everybody. It was such an invigorating spirit that it was picked up like a vibe, and the aura was felt. And now every player, if you were on that guy's team,
you're doing it for that guy.
My team, you were doing it for him, and he was holding you extra accountable. And so the pressure, the tension built, and the team's competitive spirit as wholes became stronger. It's also why we didn't stop it. You have to know where the line is, though. Because here in Southern California, it's not a residency academy. You're not the parent guardians of these players. You're not with them 10 months of the year. You're not with them outside of the practice.
There's so many more factors that are not just with the players. It's so the parents. It's
reflective periods to work with that kid at dinner, immediately after practice, before bed check, the next morning in meetings. It's a full force. In Southern California, they're going to go home, talk to their parents, get another opinion, go to school, get another opinion.
Tell their own story, and then the parents have their own story, and then the other parents have another story, and now you have to come
and say with that fogged head, right? And so the difference there was when you have a proper training environment and they're spending that much time together, the extremes get more extreme, but also the reflective periods become more valuable. And in that, you get a proper footballing environment to be able to push the limit on what is competitive spirit and respect. Because that limit that we're pushing is actually the baseline of professional football. And we're just trying to meet a baseline for these guys because 0.01% of these players make it. And in order for them to cross that threshold, they have to experience it here and now. And I can't be the guy to stop it because I'm not on my path to being a pro. I played my time and I didn't make it, but they're on their way. And for me to take that from them now is the opposite of my job here at this moment. It's a complete opposite.
Hey, what a great way to end the podcast, huh?
I thought we actually flowed into that really well. I wouldn't even looked at my notes once.
The only like missed flow point was when I had to give you the alley oop. Because we were trying to find a way to get in there, but we found a way.
Yeah, but that's the host's job, right?
Damn right, man.
Yeah,
That's my job, baby.
To keep my brain from going.
No, and I think in the beginning we were all over the place, talking about pilgrims and Indians, but hey.
I'm just saying, Thanksgiving is a whack holiday because we're celebrating the stealing of native land. But that's all right. I get it. It's history is written by the winner, and that's why we experience this holiday this way.
I have no comment on it. I'm just going to say if it didn't happen that time, it was going to happen either way.
I know. I'm just saying history is defined by the victor. And there are books all about this concept. The loser's history gets completely wiped away from the face of the planet. And then all we talk about is the winner's sense of justice. But I still am excited for
coming back,
the food that I get to eat this week.
Where can we find you?
You can find me at ZJ Cousin on Instagram or us at trainzonesports.com. We have a new name for the business.
No, at Train Zone Sports.
Yeah, and we have a new name for the business, but we'll be releasing it in the next couple weeks and other things along with it.
This is Z. I don't know if you can see him. He always helps us out. You can reach me at JCCrewRM or at Coach JCKM on Instagram.
Say hi to the people, big dog. Roof? No.
He's a man of the people.
He is.
We appreciate you guys tuning in. We hope that you learned something today from the Pitchside Prospects.
We hope to see you next week. This has been Pitchside Prospects, episode number 10. It's been good.
Vamos.